Your attention, please. This is Dick Chapman, one of your official civil defense broadcasters with a special message.
There you go, folks. Just think about this. Special thanks to 1961 actual nuclear attack message from Conelrad, Civil Defense. And also the music brought to you by Axion Ghost, Inside Enemy Territories. What has happened is there's been a fictional SARS outbreak, and we're on a fictional call that's on ham radio right now between two countries in two different parts of the country. And it seems that the CV-19 has broken loose in this country, and now there's a big decision to take. Hey, Kate, are you there on the line? Over?
I am here, over.
All righty. Are we going to have to bug in or bug out on this particular situation, do you think? And that's the big decision we have to take, right?
That is a big decision. I am not quite sure what me and my people are going to be doing. We weren't expecting this scenario to happen. So being caught off guard, we have two areas that we can do. We can bug in or we can bug out, and we're not quite sure what we're going to do yet, but we're going to need to make a decision here pretty soon. We have, a 15-minute window before everybody is alerted. Over?
That's correct. Hey, Baz, how's it going on your side of the pond, brother? Over?
Yeah, hi, guys. It's not looking good over here either. Basically, the health system has been overwhelmed, and it's pretty much just it's chaos and carnage at the minute. A lot of people have realised that tipping point has been breached, and basically we just cannot carry on as a functioning society. There's a breakdown in the fabric of society. Most public services have ground to a halt. Airports and ports are closed. The police tried to do the utmost best, but again, because society is basically it's grinding to a halt, they're struggling as well. There's public disorder. So I've got my family together now, and I'm looking to make that decision pretty soon, whether I need to stay or we need to go. Over.
Oh, I hear you on that. It seems like the stores went empty about 2 days ago. There's a little bit of bedlam here in my small town also. What are you seeing on your side? I know you're more out in the country there, Kate. Over.
What I'm seeing is a lot of trespassing. We live way out in the country where you don't see anybody, but we're seeing families come swarming into this area for some reason. And the only thing I can think of is that this SARS has got everybody spooked, and they think that if they can hunt during hunting season, then they can come and bug out during a bug out situation. We don't have the food to be feeding everybody, so everyone's going to have to pitch in and do their own thing. We're not sure if we're going to bug out or bug in with all these people coming onto the property. We may have to bug out just to go to a safer location to keep all the people at bay. Over.
Copy that. Yeah, I understand that. So far, within my exact community where I'm living, we're fairly safe. We have a community watch on steroids, but that's pretty much about it. We're pretty able to stay, bugged in where I'm at. But, it seems like, with my son being in the military got accidentally overrun with it. He's been fine. But it seems like that last plane, or that first plane of those passengers coming over from that cruise ship got out of hand somehow because, they didn't, they were trying to make the president look bad, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion when they brought them people back. And it seems like that a couple of the people they thought weren't infected were, with that 20-day incubation and still being able to give you the diseases. Over.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, a lot of people were supposed to be, quote, self-quarantined, unquote. And they thought that they weren't sick, so they went ahead and went to Walmart and Target and the grocery store and sneezed and coughed, and no other people are infected. I think we're going to go ahead and bug out, mainly because bugging in isn't going to be conducive for our area right now. Over.
Copy that. Over. Baz, on your situation, you're thinking what? And explain how you think it got into your country across the pond. Over.
Yeah, well, I think we had the same incident where people were meant to be sort of self-quarantining, weren't self-quarantining because after a few days, it was sort of, I feel fine, there's nothing wrong with me, mixing with the other people. And then it was just, obviously people aren't listening to the warnings. People are trying to get to the grocery stores to get water, cans, food. And there's just too many people mixing with each other, and I think that's how it spread. There was only sort of the outlying communities like Northern Scotland and sort of the Northeast England in some places, and the Lake District up in the Northwest that seemed to be, I wouldn't say untouched, but they are sort of like bastions of sterile land, but they were quickly ingested a lot of people from sort of the bigger towns, the bigger cities. I live in quite a big seaside town, and it's rife here. It's rife. There's a lot of there was quite a bit of crime before this, but now the police are quickly overrun. But people are flooding out the area into these areas that were so-called sort of quarantine zones. I've got a number of sort of plans. None of them basically entail me staying where I am for the time being, because I was watching the news on and off for the past few days. I was sort of clued up in what was going to go down. I think it's that sort of that prepper sort of instinct kicked in, and I started storing water, storing food, blankets, and the stuff. We've got all the doors and the windows barricaded just in case we do come across some trespassers that want to get into our property to get what we get. But I'm looking to make a decision quite soon. I think I'm going to be also bugging out to a location. There is an island off the coast where I live, so I'm looking maybe trying to get there. But again, it needs a plan that I'm going to have to sort of enact and come up with quite quickly. Over.
Copy that one. Hey, all I know is this, man. It does seem like you guys have both said there was a lack of survivalist mentality in both of our nations. and both of the forethought, no civil defense from the national point of view. And I can't lay that all on the president's lap either, because this has been neglected since the 60s, in the U.S. at least. I don't know about you and your side of the pond, Baz, but one thing I did suggest to people before this, besides, the way it got spread seems like the same way here. It was almost like a blizzard was going to happen. Everybody going out to get their bread and their milk over at Kroger's and Walmart, and everybody's touching the Bass carts. Well, the shit happens to be so persistent that it'll stay on the surface for up to 9 days, even with a decon of supertropical bleach. The shit's hyper resistant. We should have learned that when we were seeing what they were doing in China, spraying everywhere. And they were spraying supertropical bleach to try to get rid of the virus, and that virus is just too persistent. It is, they've now confirmed that it was weaponized, so it is a bioweapon. They say that now, the gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, it eludes me, was on the show the other day, talking about it came out of North Carolina. And then somebody either stole it or was allowed to take it for testing to the Wuhan area, and somehow it accidentally got out. So, and went to their fish market area. Probably somebody going to lunch, you know what I'm saying? And didn't decon right. Over?
Yeah, it's the same sort of deal over here, brother. Let's say whether it's weaponized, whether it's or natural. I think what the big cause is, it's just the spread of it. It's inflammatory. It's an epidemic because people just aren't clued up on how to keep themselves safe, keep not so much clean, but just to always decontaminate everything. And I think one of the big things that people are forgetting about, because it's so persistent, passed on by sweat and touch, that it's on the money as well. So you might not be in an infected place, but you pass on currency to somebody else, and they're catching it, and that obviously it's getting passed around with money. It's not just airborne; it's everything that people are touching, and it's got to the point now where everything, all surfaces may have some residue from an infected person. It's bad, brother. It's bad. Let's just hope that the decisions we make are going to be the right decisions to keep ourselves and our families safe over.
Copy that one. And Kate, do you have anything to say on this? Over.
Absolutely. We're told this just in. We're told that they're talking about 1/3 of the world's population being affected, if not more, by the end of the week. So everyone who should have prepared, I'm not going to go the woulda, shoulda, couldas for everybody, but those who should have prepared should have been prepared. If you're not prepared, I'm sorry, but we're bugging out, and you're not welcome at my place, because we can only handle our own people, and that's what we've prepared for. If that many people are going to be affected, we do not even know what the real death toll is with this sort of virus. And will it mutate into other viruses? We do not know the specifics of the total ramifications of this virus. So it behooves myself and my family and those who are bugging out with us that we are the only ones we have contact with. None of us are infected. We are the only ones who have contact with each other. We grab our go bags and we're gone. We have no contact with any other person. Over.
Copy that. And folks, this is when you have to take a decision. Now, that was just a simulation of maybe what a ham radio talk would look like and different BS scenarios. So don't get all jumping out of windows bullshit, which you won't, because this is just theater of the mind. But the point is that, the night is full of terrors. And it's the unknown, what you can't see, that will always bite you in the ass. Could this go viral? Yeah, it could. And so this is why we're doing this show, just to talk about the differences and the advantages of both bugging in and bugging out, and different methodologies that I've seen over the years for bugging in, bugging out. Of course, Kate mentioned the go bag. You heard Baz mentioning that, he has to have a nautical solution, i.e. going across water, a body of water to get to an island. You also had me playing as, I'm just sticking it out here, my community around us having our own little quarantined area. We aren't infected, we're not going to be infected. But that's because I have a tight community like that. But the outlying part of our community would be in pandemonium, probably. Certain parts of it. So, anyways, going on with that, Kate, why don't you talk about the advantages of both bugging in and bugging out? That'd be nice.
Absolutely. Bugging in, you already have your supplies, you're already ready. You can plastic your windows to make sure nothing can get through in the air. You already have your 5 cord of wood cut, stacked, and where you can reach it quickly. We have our propane. We have everything that we need and want for the next 2 years. I'm not saying everybody has to do it by year. I mean, a good month to a 3-month supply of food and all supplies is a good start. And people say, well, how do you start? Well, go to the dollar store, spend $10 at the dollar store. Now you have 10 items. And every time you go to town, go to the dollar store, go to Walmart or wherever it is that you shop and buy 2 or 3 items up to $10 worth. Almost everyone can afford $10. It is a good insurance policy. Well, when you're bugging in, you have all of these supplies. You also have those people who are going in with you because not everyone is here. They have to bug out from their location to come here. So you have to have a quarantine area already set up. So those people who are coming, you have supplies there, but you have a total quarantine area away from your population. Even if your population is 5 or 6 people, you have your quarantine area, you quarantine them for 30 days. That's more than enough time. But you need to be sure that no one is infected when they arrive. Once that quarantine period is over, and you are in your bug-in situation, you delegated things that everyone is supposed to be doing. On a bug-out scenario, I mean, I could get in really, really deep, but on a bug-out scenario, it's a matter of time. It isn't a matter of, oh my gosh, I have 2 days to figure out what I'm going to do. It's a bug out scenario, and called that on purpose because you need to bug out now. You grab your go bag. You don't worry about anything else. You grab your go bag and you're gone. You already have your established route and your plan B if that established route doesn't work, and you work your way to your bug out location. Once you are at your bug out location, again, you have your quarantine area. Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah.
I think, like you say, one of the things that you said there straight away about the bug-in situation, I think a good thing that people need to sort of remind. I like how you touched on the $10 sort of like every go out $10 limit. It's just a good start to sort of like start putting away provisions just in case the inevitable does happen or the unthinkable does happen. But one sort of thing I did pick up on is a bug-in situation prior to a bug-out situation. It's sort of like not so much for the head of the household or those who are prepared, not just physically but mentally for it. If you have young children, for example, there is going to be that they're looking at you going, what the fuck is going on? Mum, dad, uncle, auntie, granny, grandma. And a bug-in situation puts their minds at rest to a certain standard because they're in a familiar location. They are in their own house, in their own safe space, and then you can sort of build them up, saying like, look, we need to go in a couple of days, and then it's not that initial battle shock of now you're trying to run through the streets with two young children and keep yourself safe, them safe, and all your provisions as well. So a bug-in location or a bug-in scenario does sort of enable that a lot better, and you can become more mentally prepared. And again, you can adapt to the situation outside. Let's say your bug out bag has X, Y, and Z in it, and now because of what's happening outside, you can then, if you've got time, you can tweak that with the provisions you've already got inside your bug-in location. So that's just one of my sort of little opinions on that. You got anything on that, Shuff?
Yeah, I've got a thought or two on that. My thought has always been, and always will be, make sure that you have a couple days food and whatnot in your go bag, your good bag, your get out of Dodge bag, whatever you want to call it. But you can get freeze dried. That's fine. Whatever. Mountain House, Patriot Supply. It doesn't matter what group, but make sure you like the food. Same thing with if you have kids that prefer like macaroni and cheese, have some of that, some comfort food. If you have kids, when my son was a kid, had a little teddy bear that he liked that would have went. Just different things like this. Backpack. Don't forget, you have something in your overnight for, a good sleeping bag for all weather, because you don't know when you're going to have to make that jump. Your car, you should think of that as a secondary thing, like a mobile house while you're moving. As long as you got it, unless you have to get away from it, you have that vehicle. That'll give you some shelter. That'll give you a way to move as long as the systems are functioning. And in this scenario, being a pandemic, you would probably want to wear a glove and use the outside card reader to put your debit card in and not go into the actual gas station if they're still functional. There's a lot of what ifs to that scenario. But there's all different other kinds of scenarios that you have to think about. And one of the most interesting scenario that I've ever seen presented was actually by a prepper. And this guy had just lost his job. He thought he had job security, this, that, and the other. And he was a big name in the prepper community back in, when would that have been? 2007-ish? Yeah, it was around 2007-ish. I can't think of his name right now, or I'd say it. But he did a really good video when it was like a plea for help video. Because he'd lost a job. He was telling about his skills. He was a YouTuber. I'll never forget it. And I happened to be, working for, it was my last stint with the U.S. government working for him. And I'd listen to some of these YouTubes every once in a while, but I'd listen to this dude every once in a while. He was a sound dude, but he was just freaked out. He'd lost his job. And he's showing everybody all of his preps, his canned food, and all this stuff. And he's like, who wants to buy this? I've been prepping this, that, and the other. And his stuff was tight. You would have liked how organized it was. He was going to sell it all. And I said, hey, man, don't panic. This is your disaster. This is your disaster that's personal. You now don't have to worry about food for you and your family. Go find a job. That was in my comment. I'm like, it's not the end of the world. Your preparations will save you for this man-made disaster. Man-made because somebody else fired you. That's the kind of comments I left. That was before YouTube got really vile with the trolls and the idiots that downvote, that don't even listen to your shit, the morons. But people would actually watch somebody's video and actually, there was actually a community in it at one point. But that's my 2 cents on that. I mean, we can't get tunnel vision, but it does seem like, and notice we threw during the show portion, the theater of the mind portion of this roundtable, we threw in how conspiracies can come in. Oh, it's a bioweapon. It might be a bioweapon. It could be, and we even threw in some fun facts that have happened here recently. Those factoids, none of that could come true. But what is more prudent? To be prepared and ready, or to be caught on your back feet by the punch coming from something that you already have seen in the news developing? Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, like you said there, no doubt Kate has probably got a view on this. I think it's important not to get caught up in the conspiracy side of things, where either or, it's not going to help your end goal. It's not going to help you on your path to get where you need to be it surviving in a bug-in situation or get to a predetermined bug-out location or a makeshift bug-out location. Dwelling on the what-ifs, the conspiracy theories, this government, manufactured, doesn't help you as Joe Public, as Joanne Public, as Jane Doe. It doesn't help anyone. The big government aren't coming after one or two people in a pandemic. At the end of the day, the chaos around you is going to dictate your pace. It's going to dictate how your perimeters, whether you're going to have a wide perimeter where you're openly helping people come in. It depends on the situation, or whether you're going to bring that perimeter right in and it's just you and yours, and anybody comes within that, and it's going to be met with varying degrees of hostility. So again, it's important to not be influenced from the outside mindset. Is keep your own mindset, and the only things that should influence your decisions are the physical decisions that you need to make, are the physical sort of implications of what you're doing, and the physical things that are coming towards you in yours, in whatever sort of decision you make. Kate, have you got any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. When I was a little girl, like yesterday, my family went camping a lot. And there was a certain spot that my stepdad would take us. And that was in case he was always planning. He was also military, and he was always planning. If anything happened and our family was separated, that is the place that we would go. It was familiar, it was comfortable, and we knew what to do in a camping scenario. So like Baz was saying earlier on, was he would take his family someplace and take a teddy bear or something that your child was used to and comfortable with, or staying home because home is comfortable to that child. Have a secondary place where your family is used to going that they're comfortable at. So if that secondary place needs to be used as a bug out location, your children are comfortable there. And getting to the scenarios of what is the worst case, etc., that is what you think about. You don't think, oh my gosh, what is going on? What is going on? What is going on? You automatically assume it is the worst case scenario, and you act on that worst case scenario. You don't have to talk about the scenario. You just act on it. If I stay bugged in, what can and will happen? If I bug out, I have a 15-minute time period that I can get a head start. What can I do, and what is best for my family? Then after you are at your location, whether you're going to stay bugged in or if you're going to bug out, and you get to your location, then you find out what is going on. I know that I needed to bug out, and I know that it was a life and death situation for my family. Now I've bugged out, or I've stayed bugged in. Now let's get some intel. You turn on your ham radio if that's the only thing that's working. You find out as much news as you possibly can from reliable sources, and you work from there. If you start out with, well, it's not as bad as everybody says it is, do you want to take that chance with your child? If everyone else has already doing what they need to do, and you know that you have 15 minutes to do what you need to do to save you and your family, I would rather risk that 15 minutes and be wrong than to risk that 15 minutes and my family pay for it.
Exactly. I love the way you put that too. And you have to remember, this is an advantage that all three of us have that many of you that may listen to this haven't had. It's living in a non-permissive environment. Now, maybe locally you've gone to a demonstration, it's gotten out of hand, whatever. You've seen this in real life. Well, the ideal and the idea of it is to recognize it before it gets to that point and try to move your principal off, off the X, as we call it, off the target mark. And that's an important thing. Now you have to put it as an English EOD tech who gave us a brief over in Saudi Arabia when I was still a young dude in the first Gulf War. He said, it's your bacon. So whatever you do or don't do, or what decisions you take or do not take, you're going to pay for it one way or the other. Your bacon will either stay nice and warm room temperature, or it's going to get frosty and cold. Meaning, assuming, room temperature, not 98.5 Fahrenheit degrees. So you have to think of it that way. And if that pit of your stomach, you start getting those little jiggly feelings and you're hearing loud noises coming from the right, well, you don't move right. Now, remember, in a city, though, it will have the echo effect off the buildings. So make sure you have your bearings of that city before you even go into that city. You have to know where you're going, what you're doing, and how you're going to move. These are facts. So if you're leaving from your general area, make sure your route is one that's not often taken. That's another bailiwick that people get caught up in. Have you ever been on a highway where they've had a truck accident and been backed up for 2 hours because they're clearing this accident off the highway? Me and my wife have. And fortunately, we had enough fuel. If it would have lasted longer than that, we probably would have been out of gas. And we were talking about moving 10 miles down the road to get to the next exit to where I could get off the highway. And that's a major highway. So we could have made a lot better time if I would have taken the back route. And so now, normally, I'll take back routes. Try to stay off the highways as much as possible. But see, that's an area I know. What if TomTom Go or any of the other map apps don't work? You may be screwed, blued, and tattooed unless you have a physical map. See, these are things that the computer age has been good and handy, but sometimes things don't work. It's the old Peter principle, what fucks up moves up. But the problem is with that is sometimes what fucks up is more fucked up than the thing that it just replaced. So a hard copy of things like that are always handy. And with that being said, on with you, Baz, and bring in your 2 cents, brother.
Yeah, just picking up on what you said there about being stuck in traffic, like nose to tail for miles and miles and miles. Especially in the UK, our arterial routes are there's like sort of a couple of motorways running from the north to the south. You know what I mean? They're going to be just jam packed straight away. And I think it's like you said there, and what Kate said, it's beating that. It's being ahead of the pulse, being ahead of the curve, and maybe like Kate said, you might be wrong in that 15 minutes. But if you're wrong in that 15 minutes, you've used $10 worth of fuel and a couple of hours worth of your time. If you're wrong, it can cost exponentially, maybe even lives. So it's that recognition. Let's say you're the only prepper in your family. I'm pretty much geared towards that. Where those in my family, not so much. So it's that recognition, like, okay, now without having to scare my family, I need to now make this situation what it is. It's like, right, stop your talking, stop your random shit. This is real, so listen to me now. And it's getting those around you to sort of tune into your wavelength. And some people might brush it off. No, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Look on the news. Yes, on the news. The Chinese aren't telling us what's going on over there. Okay. Before you know it, it's in the UK. Look at Chernobyl. What happened with Chernobyl? The Russians were denying everything that was going on for weeks. And the Scandinavians were saying, our fucking trees are dying, and it's because of radiation. And the Russians are going, I don't know why, until spy satellites showed all this radioactive dust everywhere. Again, it's that something's happening, but the news is saying it's fine, and it's you as an individual. Might be the head of your household. You might not be the head of your household, but you're the one that's most clued up. You need to get everybody around you, right? Shut the fuck up, listen in. This is going wrong. We need to make a decision now. Oh, but what? Right, okay, I'll make that decision for you. We're staying, we're going. And it's then that you need to have those people in tune with you. And you need, whatever decision you make, it's imperative it's the right one. And hopefully it is the right one, because you don't want to be one of the multitude of the millions of people sat in the cars on the motorway, run out of fuel, run out of water, run out of food and things. Those arteries of our nations are going to be just spaghetti strings of violence and chaos, because that's where everybody's trying. And let's say you see a car full of people, and you can see that they've got 20-gallon water jugs, and you can see that they've got packs of food. You can see that they've got rucksacks, with clothing in. Those people are going to be ripped apart quite quickly if they haven't got some way of defending themselves. But there's a way out of that, is to make that decision early and make the right decision, so you're ahead of the curve. I think that's what's important, and that's the point I'm trying to get across. Your thoughts?
I agree. A lot of people, I would say about 90% of the population of Americas, not just the United States, but I'm talking Canada too, they have no idea what to do, how to do it, or why to do it that way. Even though they've heard other people say, well, this is what I can do and this is what I'm planning on doing, they're doing what you guys are saying. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen to us. Well, at the beginning of this show, the scenario was, it is happening now. What are you going to do? Well, that's just a scenario, Kate. Yes, it was just a scenario, but you know what? It's a very viable scenario. This could actually happen. Did we think that the economy was going to crash and so that's how we were going to survive? Some people thought that. Did people think that it was going to be a pandemic? Some people thought that. Whatever the scenario actually is, we need to, if you don't want to physically prepare now, you still need to have it in the back of your mind. What will you do? How will you do it? Why will you do it that way? Hit it all. What, who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's one of the first things you're taught in the military as military police officers. Whenever you're on a scene, you are thinking in the first and foremost of your mind, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And that is how you are going to solve your case. This is how you're going to need to solve your scenario. Who's going to go with you? Why did you choose these people? Are you choosing grandma and grandpa? Are you choosing mom and dad? Well, mom and dad and grandma and grandpa really don't want to listen to you. Well, I'm not going to stay in my, quote, family, unquote, of biological blood because they say nothing is going to happen. If my instincts are kicking in and they're saying go and go now, if my family, unless I have children, which I do not, but if I had children, I would just pick them up and take them. But if my family doesn't want to go with me, I'm gone. Only certain people know where I'm going to go. And if you are not on that list, you're not going with me.
Yep. I agree with you.
It's a decision that you have to make, because if you don't, you are the one who's going to die. And ultimately, even though you both are dads, and ultimately your children and your spouses are incredibly important, and I get that and I understand that, and I take that into consideration. If I was married and if I had children, my spouse would be on board with me. That wouldn't matter, but my spouse and my children would go with me. If not, you are the one who is responsible for your life.
Yep.
And what are you going to do to take care of your life? Then you can add everybody else.
Yep.
It's making those hard decisions.
And you're responsible for your children, too.
Absolutely.
As a mother and as a father. Luckily, my wife and I have always been on board the same way. She's not so much as the prepper mind, but she doesn't like detract from it, and she doesn't try to take away from thought processes I may or may not have. There are certain things that, we don't have to share any beliefs the same, but we absolutely do. We both are Christians. We're both conservatives. That's just what we are. And we've been married 26 years. And that really is how you build a successful team, because the first team that you make that's going to be personal to you is your wife or your husband. And I guess this goes into a little bit of, mentoring, but, that's the kind of stuff I would tell young dudes. They'd be like, well, I said, find some place that's not a bar and meet a good person. You can meet good people at a restaurant that might happen to have a bar, but just going to a straight bar to pick up a dance club, whatever, to pick up girls, that's not the spot. And, when you get married, you have to have the ability to be able to see everything. And I'm not saying you have to base it on religion either, Baz, just to be clear with you, brother. It has to be based on at least an ideological commonality, so you're not arguing over anything other than what all married couples do: money, vacations, and work stuff. That's really all you should argue with about your spouse, and it should be silly arguments, nothing that would absolutely destroy yourselves. I think we've hit the bugging out pretty good. Bugging in, like I said with that guy, he had all the supplies he needed. He just needed to find a job. And our scenario today was one that would have required quick action. I think you saw 3 separate ways. One was we had quarantined our area on my end. Kate's was her and her friends were heading out to another area. And Baz and his family were going to go nautical across the waterway. And so you had a bug in and 2 bug outs. Remember, here's the one thing. There's a really good book. It was made in, the mid-70s, late 70s, early 80s, I think, by Dr. Bruce D. Clayton. And it was probably the most realistic look at survivalism at the time. And it was called, I'm mind dumping now, and I don't want to go over and get the book. I may have to. I'll try to remember it, but it'll come to me. Anyways, he covers a lot of the basic aspects of it. And why don't one of you guys go talk while I go grab the book, because I can't believe I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. Go on, Kate.
In a bug-in scenario situation, you would need to think about and prepare for what are you going to do over your windows. Do you want people to know that you are bugging in or that you are home? So are you going to use black plastic over your windows so you can have lighting inside your home at night? Or do you want white plastic so you can see out and see who's coming towards your home? That would all depend on where are you urban? Are you in the city? Are you where are your supplies? Are you in an apartment building? If you're in an apartment building, your supplies would be limited. If you are in a home, you can have a basement or an outside cellar, and that could be you're full of food. Like where I am, the quarantine area is literally only 4 miles away from the nearest major highway. But if you see the property, you just think it's a raw piece of land. Period. It's just a raw piece of land. You have no idea what is on there.
Right. The name of the book was Life After Doomsday by Dr. Bruce D. Clayton. I had to walk over there and look at it. So he's got chapters in it to have and to hold. That was the only point I was trying to bring up on it. If you are bugging in, he talks about, and it's not like a Mel Tappan survival guns. It's not that big a tome. Like I said, it's a large book with large print. It's not thick. It's just, got a lot of data in different chapters. The chapter to have and to hold is the one that you should pay attention to. He says, these people that buy 10,000 rounds, they live in their house, they're not going to get out of their house. People are going to fire a maneuver. They're going to outflank you because you can only, even if you have a family of 4 in your house, everybody's not going to not get hit with a bullet. So it's basically going to be a loud suicide. And he points that out. So you have to have mobility factored into any plan. Stationary is never the best option, except for like a pandemic. That would be best because your family's not getting exposed to other people. But if your place gets blown, you have to realize it's time to move. Unless you've up-armored everything. You've got bulletproof. Unless you live in the White House, don't stay in one spot. That's what I'm saying.
I watched a movie, I believe it was in the 80s, back in the good old days. It was a movie about a pandemic, about a worldwide pandemic. And the movie went to this one family. Well, supposedly everybody who was contagious had to stay inside the home. You would think that that would be the proper scenario, but towards the end of the movie, it was those people who stayed out of the home and not allowed to be in the home were the ones that were not contagious.
Wow, that's an interesting concept. Yeah.
That's a scenario that a lot of people haven't thought of.
Well, yeah, I think the big issue is it's policing of that as well. Especially if it's sort of a nationwide thing. I mean, what we can do, we can refer back to things like Katrina, where people were told to evacuate the homes. First of all, people were told to stay in the homes, then evacuate the homes, and then there was the ones that were either ill-informed or they were just stubborn. I'm not leaving, or I'm staying, or whatever. It's policing that, especially if it's sort of a nationwide thing or a global thing. There's going to be that collapse of public services and law enforcement and things like that, where people are going to. Everybody, to a certain extent, is going to do their own thing. It's going to be chaos. The police might still be around, but they're going to be ineffective. Some people will think this is the best idea, this is the best course of action, and do it. And it might be the completely wrong one because they're not informed properly, they haven't prepared properly, or, you know what I mean? Or they're just stupid people. There is naturally stupid people out there. And again, what you've got to do is look at that and realise that that's somebody there that seems hostile. Might not be hostile, they may be just scared and what have you, but that's going down a different avenue. Another thing to do is like what Kate said earlier, is even if it's blood family, hard decisions need to be made. If you've got elderly parents, elderly grandparents, at some point, not so much for self-preservation, because your self-preservation, they might be the only people in your life, and you choose to make that decision that I'm going to stay with them. They might be bedbound, they might be housebound, they might be too ill or frail to move. You know what I mean? They may be infected themselves, but if you've got sort of, I want to say, both ends of the generations, you've got elderly generations with you, and then you've got a young generation like children. I think at the end of the day, one person's going to have to make that decision, and it tends to be the person who's prepared the most. And I'll use the normal family dynamic, the generic stereotype family dynamic, that it tends to be the head of the household, the man of the house that tends to be the preparer and the survivalist, or, you know what I mean, someone who's ready for this. And he's turning around and saying to his wife, look, your parents are bedbound. And she might turn around and say, I am not leaving my parents. And then you've got to sort of like go, okay, now you're choosing your parents over our children. We need to go now. You know, and I would dare say chances are most parents would turn around to their daughter and say, get you and your children out of here. But again, it's that grabbing by the shoulders and shaking someone and going, this is fucking real. This is happening. This isn't a soap opera. Forget what you've heard on the TV. Look out your window. There's people being shot in the streets. There's looting going on. This is bad. Water's getting up to the window level. We're all going to drown if we don't move. You know, and hard decisions need to be made. And I hope nobody I know, especially you two, has to make one of those decisions, because, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, if you are wrong and something happens to those people, it's something you've got to live with. But the other side of that is you've got to make the best decision you can at the time with all the information that you have to hand.
Oh, you're exactly right on the having to shake somebody. Everybody who's ever worked a team has to have that day before brief with the clients on what I like to call the come to Jesus moment, where you teach them, you know, certain things that they need to know, and you explain exactly to them the day before go day what will happen if this scenario breaks down, what will happen, and then on go day you're also briefing them, when I come out of the car, I'm going to bring you out on the passenger side facing it. When we come back out, if we have to go back, listen to me on this, and you have them repeat everything. I'm bringing you right back to this door. This is the door the team will have opened for you. And, you know, it may be, you know, the rear passenger side door, or, you know, what if the vehicle left and now it's an emergency and it's had to do a 180 to get back to you? It's going to be the right passenger side door, or, you know, the left passenger side door over here. I'm thinking in your British terms now, mate. But little things like that, and the come to Jesus moment, when especially I had this with one client, subject matter expert on Afghanistan, believe this or not, did a fuck up, and I did have to do exactly that. We're leaving now. And she was like, well, no, but... And then I said, boop. By that time, she's being pretty much whisked, thrown in the vehicle. We get her out. And then after she's done being uncomfortable and I'm done being on top of her, and we're driving away, I have to explain to her, this is why this happened. You said this, and didn't you see the guys gathering with Kalashnikovs? Okay, yeah, we saw it before it started. It did become pandemonium. That was election day back in Afghanistan in 2012. But that's a fact that happened. That's a part of life. And there is a time when it's no longer time to talk. We're going to move. And this is how it's going to roll. Cut and dry. And
making that decision come what may.
Yeah, you take the decision and you live and die with it, brother. Live and die with it. You're going to live and die with any of it. We all know that on this call. So any other aspects?
When in doubt, act.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not react. Act. When in doubt, it does not matter if you're wrong or right in that doubt. When in doubt, act. Your instincts is what's going to save your life.
Yeah, I'd rather have to explain my actions than regret my inaction.
Exactly.
Oh, that's for real. That is definitely for real on that. Luckily, I'm not even going to jinx myself saying it publicly. Never mind, you guys know what I was about to say. I've been very fortunate in this game. the point of the matter, though, folks, is that don't ever think it can't happen to you. Start getting your mindset right, your survival mindset. You know, that it's okay when you're working for a federal agency or a police agency to talk about a survival mindset. But they did such a good job in the 80s vilifying survivalists that now we had terms like prepper come up and stuff. It's still survivalism. And yet, law enforcement can still use it. Fire can still use it. Intelligence can still talk about survivalism. But you and the public can't. And, you know, because it's been vilified to call it that. Take that word back, folks, because it's just like everything else they pushed and changed the meaning of shit. You know? When you get down... Anyways, I don't want to get into a political diatribe over this bullshit. All I'm talking about is, folks, it's your bacon. Take this seriously as much as you want to. Nobody's got a gun to your head. Just like I don't have a gun to your head while you listen to my channel. I enjoy my people, my small group of people. Even the guy whose head I actually must be living in because he gives me a constant dislike. Know who you are. I'm sure we all do. We get a good kick out of it. Glad you give me that room rent free in your head, buddy. Barring that, do you guys have anything to finalize the program? Because I think we've pretty much kicked this horse.
I think just one last thing. Again, I keep banging about mindset, and it's you've got to put yourself in two mindsets: your mindset of what you're going to do, and the mindset of what I call the cattle, the 99.9% of society. What are they going to do? What you think they're going to do? That's what they're going to do. I'm going to do completely different to that, and I'm going to go and straight your own path. Because again, the 99.9%, chances are they're going to make the wrong decision, but the 99.9% are also in the same place, using the same resources, spreading the same disease, you know. And again, it's having that mindset against your mindset and making sure your mindset isn't a military mindset or a law enforcement mindset, because in the day, everybody, military, law enforcement, fucking space pilot, space astronaut, bank teller, end of the day, it's all about your survival, you know, and everybody will withdraw into that. And it's just the skills over the years that we're fortunate enough to have gathered and to acquired that give us sort of that nudge forward, that head start, you know what I mean? But it'll only last for so long where you're just in the mix with everybody else. So it's again, taking what we've said today, putting it all into a little mixing pot and just picking out the bits that you actually need and making that right decision, making the right decision quickly.
Wow. You guys said it all. Prepare. And if you have already prepared, then prepare some more.
And there we go. That's a good one. And here's what I'll say on it, folks. Like, comment, and share. If you find value with any of these videos, feel free to do that. I like my small channel. I don't really like it when it grows out of hand. I've seen how that works before. But really appreciate you guys listening. And this round table on basically, it was more fun for us just to do this little thing. I'll be having one show later on with a brother, and we're going to discuss the state within the state concept. And a lot of you guys probably don't understand what that is, but he's pretty clued up to some of it, and so I want him as a sounding board to call bullshit on me and to argue with me. And I think that'll be a good point. And that's kind of the thing that I'm looking forward to today also. But it's always a blessing to have Baz and Kate on. And thank you guys for stopping by Kaiser's Castle, taking a seat on my big orange couch, grabbing yourself a coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation. I will slowly raise the drawbridge as you guys meander out. Have a great day. God bless. Shove out.